and welcome to episode 4 of Dude, Let's Talk, Talentela's podcast about marketing, deep diving into strategy, execution, all the different facets that marketing consists of nowadays. And this episode is going to be super exciting because we are talking about international marketing. We'll touch upon the B2B and B2C viewpoints of how to go about actually connecting with your demography in various countries. And of course, our guest is amazing because he has done it all. He has gone through various industries, various countries, and he just is such a brilliant speaker and has been such a great mentor to me. I met Rachit Kapoor around, I think, 3 4 years back, and I met him because he's an IE alumni as well, and he has done his MBA. He was just so helpful and so supportive, and more importantly, such a positive personality to whose career that I followed and you should follow as well. That's why I thought that it would be great to get him on here, and hopefully you get some amazing insights by listening to him. I know I have. So let's invite Rachit up on stage.
Thanks, yeah. That's a brilliant introduction. I'm already flattered. So, but no, thank you. I think as much as you mentioned me about following me, I think Talentela is a great example. I think a lot of people talk about doing things. You have just actually done it. So thank you for taking that initiative and inspiring a lot of people like me.
Not at all, Rachit. I mean, you inspire me a whole lot. And apart from being an amazing marketer, so you have worked across, I think, like 5 countries, 3 continents, um, across industries. You've gone from Reebok, Adidas. I think the latest you were with Gulf International. You've just done so much. You also did Mahu, which so you went um, from alcohol to to B2C, and then Gulf. Those jumps have been amazing, and now you are going to progress on to another tech B2C amazing company. I'd love to know what your journey has been like.
Yeah, sure. You can actually also talk about the name. So it's Amazon, as I briefly mentioned to you. So thank you for keeping that secret that I just broke. So in fact, that's the first interview before I joined Amazon. But yeah, I think the intention has been intentional of being across different industries because I easily get bored, and I hate getting bored. And the idea across industries, more or less, it's almost the same type of people you are speaking with. The human needs remain the same. So it's been very interesting that how different products and brands fulfill those desires. If you recall the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we all have those. It might be a debatable model to talk about, but again, the human needs and perspectives are more or less very similar.
Yeah.
And working across industries, it's just amazing how different products fulfill because we all use different types of brands in FMCG or consumer goods. And working across continents has been the same idea, so because it's so challenging. At times, you do not know things how to approach in different cultures, and it's a great
Right.
topic that you have picked it up, international marketing, and I think it's all about. It looks again just diluting my own message, although people have the same needs, but they don't behave and have the same values across
Right.
different continents or geographies. So we can get into depths of them, but ultimately why I've been into different areas and different industries and so on is because I like things and new, and it just keeps me more upbeat. There's a reason to get up in the morning and
Yeah.
do something which is going to help consumers. So if it's not for marketing, I'm not in the corporate world eventually.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we started Talentella for similar reasons. We wanted to, at the end of the day, help our clients. We wanted to work with different industries, different sectors. I think that's how you grow, right? That's how you expand your horizons. And especially with the world getting smaller in terms because of the digital transformations that are happening, it's so important to understand the similarities as well as the differences across different countries. Um,
Absolutely.
so in so we already spoke about the difference between marketing for that, but in specific, what would you say when you are as a strategist, as a marketer, when you are looking at marketing for say one country as opposed to a more generalized marketing for on a global scale, what are some of the things that you should keep in mind?
I think the way to look, it's a great question, truly is. Because, from we as marketers or we as individuals, I mean, we all have our biases. And as cliche, as it may sound when I'm saying this, even besides for knowing that you have biases, you can easily get into this trap of thinking and doing things that you think internally you yourself is right. And that's what it's sort of a stigma, I would say, that any marketer should consider this as, because if you want to do some revolutionary work through your work, no matter which field, whether marketing or anything, and if you're dealing with different geographies, especially the global culture or the different countries can actually throw you back, because we have the same eyes and we look the same at times, different skin color or whatever. We are not getting into that details, but there are internal drivers. That's where I'm coming at, that
Yeah.
inspire all of us differently. Like you have Sachin here, you have Cristiano Ronaldo in the football world. So most of the Europe is all about football. So if you talk about Sachin in Europe, it's as good as talking about no one in
Yeah.
Europe, because no one will recognize it. Cricket is not a game. So as simple as that. So understanding those intrinsic values is very important. So I think the best way to look at it is basic, a very famous personality in this cultural phenomenon is Geert Hofstede. I'm sure you must have heard about him. It talks about different cultures. So it's a great starting point. I wouldn't say it should be a
Right.
model that we should benchmark. And one should look at, let's say, three layers of looking at consumers, at primary, subsidiary, and tertiary. So primary drivers are very different from subsidiary and
Mhm.
tertiary. And you can look at global marketing in a very similar fashion, that global marketing is tertiary and to a certain extent can be subsidiary. But if you really want to be an iconic brand, you have to be primary driver for the consumer. And that happens through resonance. And to reach that resonance levels, you need to speak in the language and flair that consumers locally understand what's important for them. They might have the same need. Everyone wants Coke, for example, but how do you deliver Coke's message? In fact, Coke can be a number two brand in a lot of countries, but number one brands usually in any genre are local brands. And that
Mhm.
goes on to say, just to take an example, you have Maruti in India. Similarly, you have Škoda in Czech Republic. You have Volkswagen in Germany. So these are car brands, and I've just taken them because my previous company was an oil company, and it mattered what automobile brands are doing. So this localized factor can be seen from this perspective. Now, no one knows about Maruti. Is comes from Hanuman. I think Maruti is Hanuman in our religious scriptures. But Maruti Suzuki is what Indian consumers know by, and that's the top brand in the minds of consumers. But still, people buy BMW. People do look up at Volkswagen and other brands, similarly in other categories as well.
Perfect. Um, so, so this was more on a general scale, but in terms of B2B, what are the points that a company needs to keep in mind when trying to connect with international audiences? When you are like, does the difference in terms of value sets and communication matter as much in a B2B?
I think the world that we're living today, the again, this is the a perspective that I've been able to sort of draw from a lot of data that I've studied. I think a B2B and a B2C world is getting very thin. And again,
Yes.
this is debatable, but obviously a B2B customer is looking for a different insight and perspective altogether versus a B2C. Because B2C, on a very general level, you can say a B2C decision making is far more emotional, and you're making as an individual, whereas a B2B is a group. But still, emotions are involved. We are human beings at the end of the day. So you can say a group of emotions together, whereas a single human's emotions together. And then you can also make a subset of a B2C, which again can be said in a group. So
Mhm.
keeping things very simple, I would say the decision making differs. But now, if you see on a B2B level as well, there are iconic brands that we consume, and again, Adobe or Microsoft,
Yeah.
Patagonia is another brand which is talking about is going from B2C, also touches the B2B in certain economies. But going core B2B brands, Patagonia wouldn't be a very core B2C or B2B brand. But let's look at Adobe, for example. If you go on their Instagram channels, I mean, one would think about what is Adobe doing, but it talks about all its products, Photoshop and so on, and how it's creatively engaging with consumers.
Mhm.
Because then a B2C is also, or B2B at the end, at the end of the day is also B2C. If you see, you're talking to emotions at the end of the day. Now, I would say that if you look at that particular model that I was saying you, again, this is a perspective that I use. A way it helps me is looking at primary, subsidiary, and tertiary. You're looking at communication from a very tertiary angle, because a digital consumer who consumes content on Instagram or social media, everyone goes. You talk about anyone, whether you're consuming a B2B product or a B2C product. But then obviously your content has to differ in its variety. B2B content is all about what a consumer B2B problem it's solving. So the decision making is large. So you want to talk about, obviously, if you look at the traditional marketing, you would talk about B2B in economic times or in financial newspapers, talking about, let's say, a Boeing advertisement. Just no, a B2C is not going to buy a Boeing in itself, but B2C is looking at it, who is a B2B eventually. But the messaging is all about quality, the
Right.
certifications, the adherence to standards and mediums, because here a lot of things can matter, and the financial involvement is a very different ball game in a B2B, because you're looking for an organization here, or specifically from that very general angle. But still, if you look at the content that these B2B brands are able to put, is as good as a B2C. So if you look at Adobe versus Nike, which are two iconic brands, once again, they're fulfilling very different needs. But if you look at their content, they are very highly innovative, and it's to an end consumer who's digital. Because we are entering in a world, or we're already in a world which is, I would say, is digi. And as again cliched it may sound, we all consume content there. We almost every day on the Facebook, 25 times a day. I think we have evolved from Facebook to Instagram. So it's very interesting question. But yes, a B2B brand today has to be innovative, and has to be a human in a perspective, talking to even a B2B consumer. That wasn't there earlier. B2B was supposed to be boring. If you ask a marketer, you want to work in consumer marketing or in a business B2B marketing, normally a marketer 5 years back would say B2C marketing was very creative, but that's not the game anymore. B2B and B2C are literally at the same levels, and in fact, B2B is more interesting, because how
Yeah.
you can make a difficult product more emotional. So a key word here is, how do you emote with the B2B as well? So those values have changed, but ultimately, you want to address what the consumer is looking for. At
Yeah.
the end of the day, he's looking for those nuances as well. The tick box, the way you interact has totally changed. Um, yeah,
That's so interesting. That's a really interesting viewpoint, and I do agree. Um, I personally really like B2B as well. I think it just gives so much more of a challenge, and um, I don't know. It for me, the difficulty as well as the different perspectives that you need to give to B2B really interests me. I also love what you said about, at the end of the day, you are talking to a human being. So you have to always keep it in mind that while you need to put your messages across, you
yeah.
also need to make sure that you are captivating, you're interesting, intriguing, all of those things. You also said that now everything has become digital, and I completely agree. So, my next question is, how do you think the tech transformation has changed how B2C companies approach marketing now?
Great question. Okay, so I think a part of this question is a very good segue to, although everything has changed digital, I would also say that it doesn't mean that the other mediums, for example, advertisement on televisions or radio, or print or outdoor campaigns, they have lost their significance. It's just that you as marketer or as an organization or as a brand, you have another tool to reach out to your consumers. So the way I would say is that you got to balance between digital and so tangible and intangible, mediums of consumption. So you cannot. I wouldn't say that I would totally neglect the non-digital forms. They are equally important. So in fact, if you see any successful campaign literally out there at the moment, if you think about any brand, whether Nike or anyone, I'm not taking a brand example because that would be not. But there are so many brands that who have successfully actually combined both the worlds together. So I think the another key word here is virtue real. I wouldn't say it's virtual; it's
Yes.
virtue real. Um, Again, I'm not interpretive, but I think it's just easy to say that both the worlds have come together. You got to so a successful campaign will be one which is really trying to make a dent, is which gives equal balance and significance to both the platforms, yet utilizing digital. So digital has to be part of your core if you are looking for a deeper impact, but it has to be combined with your non-physical mediums as well. So you want to see the same comms on Instagram, and you go out and you see the same outdoor. So if the
Absolutely.
outdoor is not saying the same thing, and if you don't have the outdoor, so you want to take the opportunity of wherever the touch point is. So that's how I would say. So the B2C or technology companies have obviously they have distorted the entire industry. We know what Amazon is doing. We know what Google has been able to achieve over the years. There are other tech brands as well. There's something or the other happening on a daily basis. We have esports and gaming, which is a phenomenal area, which I really love actually because of the impact it is already able to make and where it is going to grow. So the tech environment has changed. It has rather been the core medium of bringing digital mediums core to the marketing, but it's that sort of disruption I would say it's bringing, and a lot of innovative and new mediums will come through literally tech because that's their bread and butter. That's what they survive on. So you have data analytics tools, you have big data, which is also becoming an old medium now. You're going and enhancing further. You have terabytes of data coming on your way. So that thing has become so common now. What's next? I always see this as in a very evolutionary way. If you look at any particular feature of a product or furniture, in fact, or anything, it always has a cycle. Now we all moving towards ecological economy where we are talking about how sustainability gets formed. So again, those are different areas. All I'm trying to say is that technology is trying to distort the environment. So like the way you had internet, but totally distorting the world. You had automobiles and cars coming way before they even thought and distorted the entire automobile industry. So many music industries now highly digital, and it's gone from different CDs to cassettes, from cassettes to CDs to pen drives and so on. So this is what technology is bringing in. That's where the disruption is going to bring. But
Mhm.
having said that, the physical, at least for the next 4 to 5 years, let's say, till the time we are not living in a digital avatar altogether, where we have digital avatars talking to each other, we not as humans also. I think till that time doesn't happen, I think both intangible and tangible worlds are important. For any marketer who's trying to make a dent, I would say stay simple. Try not to be too Einstein here. Use both the worlds together, and then you will have an impact. And data, a lot of successful campaigns and brands are able to do that because they use both the worlds together, not one or the other, both of them together.
That's awesome. So what you said was very interesting, Rachit, in terms of how it is important that marketers look at it more holistically, and at the end of the day the message is same across multiple platforms. That's how you communicate effectively with your consumers. At the end of the day, that's how you make an impression, I think. But I just want to change the topic a little bit to talk about the past 2 years and how much of a change has happened. Of course, like the whole world has gone digital, brands have had to be more connected with their consumers, more understanding, more humanistic. So in our field, like in terms of marketing operations, we have also noticed that freelancing and outsourcing has increased because everything has gone remote. With regards to that, with the increase in outsourcing marketing activities, what do you think um, are the pros and cons of that? Have you like do you also like work with freelancers, or do you outsource, and what is your like what are your tips and tricks to navigate that?
Yeah, another great question here. So I think we all need help. So I think no one is a superhero. So I mean, if you're working in a global role of any sort, you do need external help. And why external? Because you have new perspectives that within the organization or within the team you're not able to have. So I think most of the creative ideas do come from outside. I mean, I'm saying all of them, but a lot of majority of the ideas, if you see, because you're looking from a naive eyes, and usually when someone from outside looks at it from a new perspective, fresh ideas flow in always. So that's always the key driver. Besides for the fact that you all also want to share your work so that you can focus on the primary daily tasks, which is as simple as replying to emails, which can consume a lot of your time, and following certain patterns in your organization. So I think in my career so far, I've always had an external help, but I've also been a more of an individual who has focused on what I can do. So I would rather do majority of the stuff myself, and only when I required an external help, I will go and I look for expertise. So I think my initial experiences were that I would go for a bigger agency, or I will go for so and so credentials and so on. But someone recommended me a freelancer who actually was the best experience in my career so far, because I worked with him a lot, because he understood the vibe of the organization better than I actually eventually, and he would still bring something new. So I wouldn't say that the talent, as your organization's name is also Talentela, so I think it fits very well. So I think it's all about talent, and can come in any shape. So I would say that as a marketer, I would be more open to trying people of different sorts. So not just going to bigger names out there as agencies or freelancers, because eventually a talent comes in any shape and form. It doesn't, stay. Eventually, there are people similarly who are working as freelancers, also employees there. So I would say to be flexible and try out. And if it cost is also an important factor, so freelancers do give you a good bargain, but then you have to do a bit of A and B testing to see who works with you best. Some of the freelancers can give you great cost, but are not talent. Some of them are. So you got to look for that talent to see who can really extend good services to you. So I would say try both sides. I've used both the types as in terms of sourcing. I'll continue to sort of have a flexible and open approach. If someone who is, matches with my, again, biases that I have and is able to understand what I'm trying to say, I think for a marketer, the important thing is the brief, what you end up giving to an agency or to a freelancer. So I would rather give it to both the types of sources and see who has captured that most, and then evaluate further.
So, speaking from the side of an agency, Rachit, you are the kind of client that most agencies would love to work with, somebody who understands the value of a great brief and, I don't know, talking to your partners as partners. So that's great. My last question for you, and I will not take up much of your time, is that I know that you are a great speaker and mentor. What's coming up next?
So for me, next trajectory is Amazon. So really excited to join it. I was specifically eyeing Amazon because of the disruption and the cutting edge technologies that it keeps bringing out. Again, the intrinsic desire is the same, to get up in the morning and see the day in front of you, that you have something to contribute for. So it's very driving for me. So and Amazon, I think my experience so far has been phenomenal. Let's see. So I'm really looking forward to that challenge, and hoping that I'm going to be in the consumer marketing, not because consumer marketing is, and I would say that B2B is equally great, but I wanted to be in the consumer marketing side. So I'll be managing Europe for Amazon Pay. So let's see how that journey is going to be. So really looking forward to it. So that's the immediate upbeat.
That's amazing. Like I could not think of a better person for this to happen to. And what about like your speakership opportunities? And are you still doing that?
Yeah, motivational speaking is still part of my life and will always be. The reason I do is not because I want to do it for anyone else. It's rather to motivate myself. It helps me in combining both the worlds actually, because if you see, marketer has to be an honest marketer to be able to connect with the audiences. And when you, as a motivational speaker, so this becomes a medium for me uh, to proliferate the same emotions back to my own primary core work. So I'm doing those. I'll continue doing that. I have one upcoming. So hopefully it's with an NGO here based in Delhi. So let's see how that goes. I'm here in Delhi for a few days with my family. So I'm taking that time out to recharge. So it helps me recharge. So it'll always be a part of my life. Hopefully I can continue this throughout my life. That's what I'm, but I
That's
try to do this because it's a very emotional sort of connection for me to combine both the worlds.
Thank you so much, Rachit. I love your speeches, which is why I brought it up. Even now, if you guys want some inspiration and some motivation, if you're feeling a little down, I know I have many times. Please go check out Rachit's videos. You can check it out on his LinkedIn. And I think on his website as well. So definitely do check that out. And thank you so much, Rachit. I wish you so much luck for your Amazon journey, and I hope to meet you really soon. And thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, and thank you. I think the podcast name, as it says, "Dude, Let's Talk." And I think this is fascinating. This is one of the challenges that you have put forward in front of you with Talentela, and I think hardly 3 or 4 months Talentela has been in the world, and I think you are literally doing a phenomenal work. So as I was saying in the beginning, a lot of people talk about doing things, taking that first action scares a lot of people, and I think you have done that, and it's a brilliant team. I was looking at your entire team, including Sankiti, who has been phenomenal in conversation. So I'm sure I think Talentela is full of talent in itself. So wish you equally the best and even more. So I'm really looking forward to following Talentela and you especially.
Thank you so much, Rachel.